From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried. And with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey, and we are back again with the 38th Disney feature-length film, a film from August 12th, 1958, another stop on our True Life Adventure series of movie called The White Wilderness. Would you like to give us some opening thoughts and synopsis on The White Wilderness?
The wildlife of the Arctic is explored in this true life adventure.
I mean, there you go.
You don't even have to stick around now. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's actually the only True Life Adventure film that's not on Disney Plus.
Okay.
It is noted, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bunch in the movie, so I won't go too deep. But it is noted for basically the propaganding of the myth of the lemmings mass suicide.
Offing themselves.
Yeah. And following each other into that. But would you like to go ahead and dive right in?
Sure.
So it does start off with the spinning globe, like a lot of the films do for the True Life Adventure films. And then it says, with the cooperation of the Canadian Wildlife Service, National Park Service of Canada, the province of Alberta Department of Lands and Forests, the province of Manitoba, the Games Branch, Hudson Bay Company, and McKinley National Park. Go for it.
So, Winston Hibler is back as the narrator. He has a very distinct voice.
Yeah.
Very British. So it opens up with a paintbrush scene of ice scapes, and talking about the Ice Age. It does not draw you in.
But it's painting. It's painting you in.
It's okay. Okay, it
Yeah.
definitely does that. So the picture was filmed in Alberta, Canada, and it's not the native habitat for lemmings, which you had mentioned earlier. But they were imported from Manitoba for use in this film, and they were purchased from the Inuit children by the filmmakers.
Okay. Well, you know what?
Yes. But we'll get more into them, I guess, later. So this is the 13th installment of the True Life Adventure series of the nature documentaries.
Mhm.
So basically, it's talking about the Ice Age.
Yep.
And you get to a scene where it's talking about thawing, and there's like huge chunks of like blue glaciers that are like breaking off, and then it's talking about how them doing this, I guess, because the temperatures are rising and stuff, and it's like the rivers are freed, but only for the summer because they'll freeze back up.
It does say that with the Ice Age, many creatures did not survive, and we only know about them today from the painted pictures on the walls of the caves.
True.
Yeah.
And then it starts talking about some of the animals that are actually in the documentary. And the first one we touch on is the walrus. And I guess when they were first seen, People called them whale
The
horses.
whale horses, yeah.
And they live on shellfish, and their skin is 1/2 inch to 3 inches thick, and they love sunbathing on rocks.
An adult can weigh 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, 2 tons. 2 tons. Where the babies weigh like 100 pounds. They're not very pretty
The babies?
either.
No.
I mean, the babies kind of look like seals, so I guess kind of, but
Yeah.
not really. And then it talks about the polar bear, Enter the Polar Bear, which they discuss is the walrus's mortal enemy. The polar bear does not hibernate. It is an ocean-going bear, so it will jump into the ocean and swim. To its hunting grounds, which is on the ice packs. It has a waterproof coat of fur and a thick layer of fat that keeps it warm when it goes into the icy polar plunge. I guess maybe that's why we call it polar plunge, because it's the polar bear. And they technically don't really eat walrus unless,
Seal, right?
yeah, they don't really eat walrus. Mainly they'll go for like pups if like there's one around or one that's injured or something. Otherwise, their proper prey is seals.
Yeah.
Then it showed 2 polar bear cubs, which they discussed as twins, and they had discussed how, like, when they were first born, they had no fur, so they were born naked, and they had to stay warm by burrowing into their mother's fur. But even the cubs can actually run off a full-grown 2-ton walrus because the walruses are afraid of their father, so the reputation precedes them, I guess. Thoughts?
Nope. It does show that the polar bear cubs they're playing with each other.
Mhm.
At one point, it looked like they were having a snowball fight.
Mhm.
Where they were just like kind of like causing like little avalanches.
Yeah.
And then speaking of avalanches, one of the polar bears kind of like the little polar bear cubs, kind of falls down the snow hill. And it
Mhm.
just keeps falling and falling and falling and falling, and has like instrumental like Three Stooges type music behind it.
Yeah.
No, but that's really all we got.
All right. And then it went into discussing seals, and there was a specific seal called the ringed seal. I have never heard of before, but I guess when they are babies, they are born with fur that's white, so they can camouflage into the snow. It was the weirdest looking thing.
I mean, there is a
Like,
bird later that's really weird looking. So,
yes, but imagine a seal with a seal head, but fur that sticks up kind of furry and white, but like literally from the neck down, like its face looks normal. I mean, does it lose this coat of fur? It didn't say. I don't know. But it did look very interesting. Then we discussed the beluga, which is also known as a white whale, but it's actually not a whale at all. It is a member of the dolphin family.
okay.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I was very upset that we were talking about Arctic creatures, and the killer whale was never brought up at all. Big letdown, which is going to come into my rating at the end, just so you know. Prepare yourself. Thoughts?
No.
Okay. All right. And then enter the lemming. Lemmings.
Yeah.
All right. So basically they live underground in grass roots because the ground is basically frozen, so they can only like burrow so far. So they pretty much live in the grass roots of the ground. However, in the summer, when things start to thaw, their home basically leaks and floods because of the water coming through the layer that they're living under. Then they move outdoors, and then every 7 to 10 years they migrate, but it's mostly due to famine because there's just so many of them.
They
They
eat
just,
their way out of household.
yeah, they don't have food. The migration is like a weird thing. It's like they just mindlessly follow each other. However, they did discuss how they don't necessarily follow each other like they do in this film. Um, it was staged, and I don't think they actually killed them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a whole entire documentary made. I didn't write down what it was called, but there's a whole entire documentary made about the lemming scene of this film, about how Disney staged a mass suicide.
Yeah,
And it does show like the tiny bobbing bodies, the legend of mass suicide. Like, that's what it says. And
yeah.
it just shows these. I mean, all these films show have death, but
So I did find on IMDb where it says, contrary to popular belief repeated in this film, lemmings do not commit suicide en masse by jumping off cliffs into the sea. However, cyclic population explosions do induce lemmings to migrate to unfamiliar territory where they are crowded and prone to accidents such as falling off cliffs or drowning. But these are not considered like suicide in any sense. It's pretty much just accidental things that happen to them because they're not familiar with these areas. So it's not typically like what they were showing in the film. Anyway, we won't touch on that too much, but um then there was a weird looking
the
bird.
duck. It was a very weird looking duck.
I don't think I have that one on there. Tarmangans is what I had, and they were noted as lazy birds. I didn't really write a bunch about that. And then there was the jiggerbird. Um, it preys on lemmings, and it was also considered, I guess, what they called the Arctic owl.
Okay.
There was a raven, an ermine. Yeah, I didn't write down the name of the bird or the duck that you're talking about. Which I don't think it was the ptarmigans. The ermine is actually a member of the weasel family. And I guess it kind of like maybe hunts these birds. And then I had in my notes there was just tons of birds with their nesting grounds, and I'm just not a bird person. I'm sorry.
At one point, one of the birds
Oh, I did write the name of the bird down. You
jumps.
just jumped ahead.
Oh, good.
Um, Egg snatchers. So they had like a whole section of egg
Yeah.
snatchers. So ermine and polar bears will snatch the eggs. I did find the colors and the patterns of the egg, like the specklings and stuff on the eggs, to be cool because they were not like your regular like chicken egg that you're gonna see at the farm or pick up from the grocery store. Um, they were like blues, browns, but they had like cool speckling patterns on them. Then they had the golden eye duck, which I think is the bird you were talking about.
Probably.
It lives in an abandoned woodpecker nest in a tree. They basically just take over somebody else's home.
Oh yeah, this is the
And they said it was the the duck that breaks all the rules. So it basically has a brood of young ducklings that then have to get out of a tree, and they don't have wings big enough to fly yet. So they basically just jump out of the tree.
yeah. And it's funny because they show them jumping, but they add like sound effects.
Yeah, I thought it was cute because they talked about telling Charlie having a timid takeoff.
Yeah.
Literally, that's how they were. And that was the last one to make it out of the nest. But apparently they said that that was actually not the most dangerous part of their journey. The most dangerous part of their journey was after they landed, getting to the pond
Yeah. Before
because of prey
yeah.
finding them and them not being able to like fly away or whatever.
Mhm.
And then it finally got away from birds, thankfully. And then we see the musk ox, which also has a protective coat, which would make sense because it lives in these Arctic temperatures. Um,
That is not how I spell muskox. Just saying. So I spelled it wrong. Continue. It didn't correct me. Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, musk ox. Um, yeah, so these oxen are a smaller breed. They're stocky and strong. And they have horns for self-defense. Uh, definitely
They
not,
survived the Ice Age, it said.
yeah, not your typical oxen size for sure. Um, then it discussed wolves and
Mhm.
how they're in most folklore still to this day. However, they typically get portrayed as wicked and the villain in most stories. But they're actually very well behaved. And
They mate for life.
they do mate for life. The male is a good provider, unlike some other animals that we've covered thus far in the previous documentaries. The males will help hunt. They help with the child rearing. They basically play with the pups. They do reprimand them when they need to, but it's actually a pretty good dad, I guess.
Mhm.
Note to self, if you're gonna be an animal, be a wolf as a woman. Don't be a lion. Anyway, um, so the wolves live in a pack. They hunt in a pack. And basically what they do is they go to the mountain passes, um, or they can kind of go high up to kind of see the prey coming. And it's basically promised hunting grounds for them, and that's how they pretty much kill their food.
Yeah, they feast.
So they'll nab down caribou and reindeer, which are members of the deer family, in the Arctic. Uh, and it talked about how for the caribou, the newborns must cross water to get to where they need to go or they get left behind. So, I mean, if you were just born and learning how to use your legs, you've got to figure also how to swim
Mhm.
across water because you're not as tall as the adults that can just walk through. Um, or you're going to get left behind. So, I guess it's a true survival of the fittest moment here in the Arctic. Um, yeah. And then they also like before things start to like freeze back up or whatever, they head to the warmer forests.
Yeah.
And I believe it also said the wolves also do that. So they kind of come out into the open, I guess kind of like their version of the meadow. And then they go back to the forest when it's getting cold again. Um, enter the Wolverine. Ironically, this guy is also a member of the weasel family, weasels.
Can I talk here for a second?
Go ahead.
Whenever I think of weasels, I think of like the little guys from Ichabod or Mr. Toad, but the ones that were like chasing the paper airplanes. But all right, so Wolverines.
I'm glad that that's what you think. I think about heffalumps and woozles.
Okay, so we are not there yet.
But that's what I think
So
about.
Wolverines, vicious. They can beat the wolves. Um, so that might make them the toughest animal in this film. So this is the best segue of this film. I was waiting.
I'm not done yet.
I was waiting. Okay, go ahead. Talk about how great these Wolverines are.
Okay.
Don't talk bad because it's going to ruin my question.
I wasn't going
Okay,
to.
go ahead.
Let me talk. All right, so like I said, the Wolverine is a member of the weasel family. They are very solitary creatures. They don't even like each other, so they pretty much stay by themselves. So technically like the giant squid of land.
Mhm.
They will run a pack of wolves off from their kill and take it. And they pretty much just eat all the time. So they're always looking for food, kind of like our dog. But they always are looking for food. Like, you just eat something, oh, there's something over here. I'm gonna go eat that too. So they're constantly eating, constantly fighting. They um it talked about how they had like traits of like several different animals, like bears and raccoons and stuff. They climb trees. If you watch this film, you can watch it climb this tree and go after, I don't remember what kind of
Some kind of
hawk it
bird.
was, but it was some kind of like hawk-like bird. And the baby doesn't have the ability to fly yet. And there's only one in the nest, I guess. And the mom's trying to save it because she sees the Wolverine climbing the tree, and you see this mother bird fly in trying to knock it off the tree several times, but it does not have a happy ending for that little baby bird, which was not very much smaller than the mom. It didn't look
Yeah, I
like.
don't know why the mom just didn't grab the bird, but yeah.
I'm assuming maybe it was too big.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it was almost her size. That's why I was like, I don't understand why this bird itself can't fly, but whatever. Um, so anyway, mom was unsuccessful, so she's gonna have to has an empty nest now. I don't know. Anyway, and then you see the Wolverine chase other things. Um, but it simply runs everything off. I mean, if you think the honey badger is pretty gnarly, check out the Wolverine.
Oh, so now I can ask my question?
Yes. Oh, hang on. It did show it like running after a rabbit, and it said, "Oh, the Wolverine has speed on its side." It did not look like it was going fast, but it said it also has
Hey,
speed on
I
its
said you
side.
couldn't talk bad about this because I have a question.
Hang on. But when it runs, if you've seen The Wizard of Oz, like the original Wizard of Oz, it runs like the witch's monkeys. If you can picture that. That's it. It does like a weird hoppy gallop run. I don't know.
So these
Um,
Wolverines, they're vicious.
yeah.
They're,
They can climb trees, dig things, yeah.
are you done?
Run a pack of
Are you
wolves off.
done cutting me off?
I was trying to build your question up. Go ahead, ask your question.
So, um, does that make the animals in this film tougher than the other animals in the other films?
Yes.
So the Wolverine is
Yes.
tougher than the elephant.
Yes, because it would probably run the elephant off. Yeah.
I mean, the Wolverine, it
I
was
would say
pretty vicious.
that the animals, I would say that the animals in this one probably rank number one just because of the Wolverine.
Yeah, the Wolverine, it was the
And the wolves are also pretty up there.
and the Wolverine can run off the wolf, so there you go.
Yeah. And if you've had to adapt to this temperature, even like in the warmer months, it's still gonna be cold there.
Mhm.
Everything doesn't freeze or like thaw out. It's still somewhat frozen. So, I mean, so I would probably rank these animals to be the toughest, with the desert being the second toughest.
And I'm pretty sure that after this, there's only one more True Life Adventure film, so this might be the winner. We'll have to see. We'll have to report back.
Mm,
So after we see
sorry,
these,
guys.
after we see these Wolverines, um, it does talk about the desolate reaches of nature's white wilderness and how it kind of runs its full circle.
Mhm.
I did write that there's no flood or wildfire in this True Life Adventure film, but there's a blizzard instead.
Well, there is kind of some flooding.
Yeah, but like
It's
not like
not like full on like the
that.
whole area flooding. Yeah.
Most of the True Life Adventure films end that way, but this one doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. What else you got? That's kind of it, right?
That's pretty much it. It was definitely not my favorite of all of them.
What did you rate it? Speaking of your favorite of all of them.
Well, IMDb actually gave this a 5.3.
It's because it's not Disney Plus, so they're like, we gotta.
I rated it a
They're
6.
like, we don't like mass suicide. No, not allowed.
Okay. Um, I rated it a 6. I mean, it wasn't terrible. Definitely wasn't my favorite.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like it went into as much detail
No.
as some of the other ones did, which I don't know, whatever. Um, It wasn't bad.
But it did win the toughest animal award so
It
far.
did win the toughest animal award. If we're going off toughest animal award, it would get a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah,
Maybe a 9.5, but definitely up there.
because of that bird that just like jumps out and the whistle, like the slide whistle, gets it to fall
No,
down.
the Wolverine.
Although the Wolverine is what gets you up to a 9. Yeah. So, does this make your list upon a star?
It does not.
So, what is your list?
My list is Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Fantasia, Saludos Amigos, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Johnny Tremaine, and Bambi.
And my list is also saying the same, and it is Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, Cinderella, Dumbo, and Johnny Tremaine. Thank you all for joining us on these deep dives. Again, we would love to hear from you. Deep dive into magicpod@gmail.com. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. Everything is listed in the description. So again, please tell your Disney friends. We would greatly appreciate it. Our next episode, we are heading back to another live action Western style film. Another feature film released on Christmas Day. Another Christmas miracle. But this Christmas miracle
But is it?
doesn't have Fess Parker. Will it be another Christmas miracle or will it be a lump of coal? So we are talking about a film called Tonka. We'll see you then.
Thanks for deep diving magic.